Okay, welcome, Hebre, to Tanya Outside In, chapter 13. Um, I'm not going to give a big introduction, although I am going to tell you that this class, we are going to try and understand what Bechira is, what Bechira Chofshis is, which is not a simple thing to understand. And if you've been with us, for a while, which some of you have, we would have definitely discussed this before. But this is the Perek Yud Gimel is when the Rebbe explains what Bechira Chofshis is. So I'm going to try and explain it outside, and then we'll see it inside. One of the things that I just learned this week, I mean, didn't really learn it, I because we know it very clearly, but I saw it in the book from Rav Steinsaltz. It's the 13 petal rose or something. What's it called? Something like that. And he explained that in Torah, in place of explaining things conceptually, Chazal always chose to explain things metaphorically. So instead of explaining things, really, they gave mashalim, and they rarely explained the mashalim. So now in our door, especially, it's interesting because especially when English has become so, prevalent amongst Yidden, we're explaining stuff, and also in modern Hebrew as well, we're explaining stuff more conceptually, explaining ideas as opposed to just giving mashalim. But for all of history, as a nation, basically the Rabbanim have given mashalim instead of conceptualizing ideas. And this is one of those places where the Alter Rebbe kind of creates it's like a cutesy little moshel, but when you have it broken open by the Masorah, you'll realize it's mamash, it's unbelievable. So the question is, what is Bechira Chofshis? And we're going to make a distinction here between Bechira and Bechira Chofshis. And we could make a whole share of this, and I have done in the past, but we'll try and give it over as quickly as succinctly as possible. There's a difference between Bechira in Sifrei Chabad. There's a difference between Bechira and Bechira Chofshis. Bechira is a function of this world. It is actually available to animals on a low level, and available to humans on a much higher level, but it's really varying degrees of the same phenomenon. It is the concept of shikol das, the concept of making a cheshbon between two different things. So, for example, the example that I've given countless times is if somebody was to offer you a $10 bill and a $100 bill, and so you can take one, there's no strings attached, whatever one you want. Now, obviously, you'll choose the $100 bill. In fact, you could go as far to say that you don't have Bechira in choosing the $10 bill. You are compelled by your seichel to choose the $100 bill. That's a expression of Bechira. Now, what about if we change it to, instead of a $10 bill and a $100 bill, we change it to a $50 bill and a $100 bill? Yeah, there's still no free will. But what about if I was to say it's the difference between 100 single dollar bills and a 50 and two twenties? So it's a choice between 100 $1 bills and $90 in three bills. Now, I don't know about you, I would probably go for the $90. I don't want to have to stuff a hundred single dollar bills into my wallet and have it all bulging out. I'd rather spend $10 on having Yitzi. You wouldn't do that?
I go for the more money. Why would I? Yeah,
Yeah, for 100.
personally.
Okay, but you understand now it's become a shikla das. The truth is, I probably would as well because you can give them out in shul for as tzedakah more easily. But you understand there's a cheshbon, yeah. If it was the difference between 1,000 $1 bills, yeah, and $990 in $100 bills and whatever. You understand, yeah? So it's a cheshbon. That's called bechira. And on that level, animals also have a certain level of bechira. An animal can determine whether or not it's going to eat this meal or that meal. Like a lion at one point will not chase a mouse. If a mouse comes past the lion, he might just slam a paw on it and eat it. Yeah, but if it starts running, he's not going to get into gear because he'll probably end up burning more calories than the mouse will provide him as a meal. Yeah. So on that level of making an actual intelligent decision, that's called Bahira, and it's something of this world. The difference between human Bahira and animal Bahira is largely to do with how big the cheshbon gets. How big is the cheshbon? Meaning we can factor into it other people, we can factor into it the future, etc. We can even factor into it morality. Yeah. But it's still the same idea. The animal says, would I prefer to eat this or would I prefer to eat that? And the human says, well, how much mileage is this going to give me? How much do I have to go to the mechanic? Yeah, do I really care that much about the fact that it's a bit faster? Yeah, how much is the insurance going to cost? What are my kids going to think if I invest more money into this fancy car as opposed to go with a more posh, etc., etc. Yeah, none of that has got anything to do with Bechira Chofshis. That is all Bechira. And you can think about that. That's most, if not all, of the decisions that we make in our life are based on Bechira. Bechira Chofshis is only relevant to mitzvah. I'll say that again. That's really, really important. Bechira Chofshis is only relevant to mitzvah. And to go even further, you are only using your Bechira Chofshis, if you could speak like that, you are only using your Bechira Chofshis when you choose the mitzvah. Somehow. If a person chooses the Avera or chooses not to do the mitzvah, his Bechira Chofshis was not activated. So Bechira Chofshis isn't you used it for this or you used it for that. Bechira Chofshis is you chose the mitzvah, but not because of a shikla das, not because it made sense. So when a person decides to do the mitzvah because he doesn't want to go to Gehenna, not necessarily was Bechira Chofshis involved. It could be under the scenes, but you wouldn't know that necessarily. Choosing not to do an Avera because of Gehenna or because your rich father employed some big guy to walk around with you with a hammer, and every time you stepped out of line, he gave you a knuck, yeah, which is really the same thing. That is a shikla das. That's a shikla das. So that isn't Bechira Chofshis. So what is Bechira Chofshis? So Bechira Chofshis is a miracle. Bechira Chofshis is when the Ribbono Shel Olam reveals himself in this world through you. It's not really Bechira at all. It's actually got nothing really to do with you. The only thing it's got to do with you maybe is the fact that you delayed choosing the wrong thing. If you're able to do that, I think that's the Indian of I think that's the side of the first Eitzah in all of Pirkei Avos is Mesuvim Bedin. Have a Mesuvim Bedin, meaning slow down. Don't don't jump. Don't jump into that thing. And if you're able to not jump into that thing, there's a good chance that Bechira Chofshis can flow through you. So the example that I always give that some of you have heard, please excuse the repetition, that I have for my own life, looking back at this as I realized this was the day that I made tshuva. Eliezer, do you remember you came to my house for Shabbos one time and I worked out like the midpoint between how I'd been frum and how I'd been fry? Do you remember that? I think you came to my house. It was a Shabbos. Anyway, so I realized a little bit later that in fact that wasn't the midpoint of my tshuva. I realized the day that I made tshuva was about 3 months before when I came to Israel. And long story short, I ended up in a 7-Eleven in Manchester. I was very hungry and it was late. I'd been rejected by a bunch of photographic museums to get to have an exhibition, and I was all dejected and I was down. And I went to a 7-Eleven. I wasn't from, and I picked up a chicken sandwich, a tray of chicken sandwich, and I'm about to go to the cashier to buy it, and it caught my eye, a tuna sandwich, and all of a sudden I was kind of paralyzed. I was like, and I said to myself, Diamond, what are you doing? Just go and buy the chicken sandwich. It's you prefer it. It's more delicious. It's the same price. You got it in your hand. Go to the cashier, buy it, and done. And I don't know what happened. And I got overwhelmed by the fact that I had to get the tuna sandwich because it was kosher, or at least it was more kosher. And I put down the chicken sandwich and I took the tuna sandwich. And that was the day that I made tshuva. That is an expression of Bechira Chofshis. I I wanted to eat the chicken sandwich. I wanted to eat the chicken sandwich, and I was gonna eat the chicken sandwich, and the Ribbono Shel Olam trumped it. And because I didn't go no 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 and just run and buy the chicken sandwich, and I listened to that awe, which we'll talk about, that light that burned into me. I went and bought the chicken. I went and bought the tuna sandwich, and then I mean I went back to my shiksa girlfriend, and I didn't keep Shabbos for another 4 months after that, whatever it was. Yeah, but that was the day that I made tshuva. That was Bechira Chofshis working through me, and I'll never ever forget that. So what is Bechira Chofshis? That's what it is. Bechira Chofshis is an awe with an aleph, an awe from the Ribbono Shel Olam, a light from the Ribbono Shel Olam that, so to speak, burns through or nullifies. That's a better way. It nullifies the human element, your human element. It nullifies your sense of self. Now, you only see it when in two options. Either the choice is 50-50, mamash, or it's like with my choice with the chicken sandwich, where it was 100% buy the chicken sandwich. There was no tzad. There was no tzad to buy the tuna sandwich. And I still bought the tuna sandwich. In those two cases and everything in between, obviously, is where you see Bechira Chofshis. Now, that doesn't mean because you've been accustomed to choosing the right thing that the Bechira Chofshis is not working through you at all. It doesn't mean that at all. It could be, and it will most likely be working through you, but you won't be aware of it. Because even if it wasn't for Hashem's light burning into you to make you choose the right thing, you would have done it either through being accustomed to it, you've developed a second nature, or whatever the cheshbonis is that you've become ragil. I say that you've become accustomed to choosing the right thing over the wrong thing. So the only time when you'll really see or feel Bechira Chofshis is, for example, you're at chasna, yeah, you haven't eaten all day, your mama's hungry, and the hechsher's not your hechsher. Now what do you do? But it's still kosher and everybody else is eating and the Rav's eating, but you know that this hechsher you don't eat. Yeah. Now, if you're able to just not eat, there's a good chance that that's a revelation of the Ribbono Shel Olam pouring through you. It's actually interesting. We won't get into this right now, but Bechira Chofshis is the exact same inyan. Go on, you guys should know this by now. What are the two other things that are the exact same inyan as Bechira Chofshis, just in different circumstances? Bechira Chofshis. Oh, please. Bechira Chofshis, Mesiras Nefesh, and Tshuva are all the same inyan mamash. Same inyan mamash, just in different circumstances and scenarios, looked at from a different angle. When a person, I mean, tshuva means, again, tshuva is a deep, I suppose tshuva ilah is a deep movement from within that is not logical, that comes from the Ribbono Shel Olam. That's tshuva. And Mesiras Nefesh is also not I'm choosing to give my life up like those Rishoyim Lahavdil on October 7th. Yeah, that's not Mesiras Nefesh Bichlal. That's Shmiras Nefesh. That's the opposite, mamash. That's pure gaiva. Yeah, Mesiras Nefesh by a Yid is the ultimate level of anivas, meaning there's nothing in it for you. So who's choosing to do it? That's the exact point. No one's choosing to do it. It's happening through you. That's Mesiras Nefesh. So Bechira Chofshis is when you've got, or you see it, when you've got the same two options and there's a stalemate. If I was to sit down and write down the pros and cons on a piece of paper, it would come out 50-50. And in the example that Manis gave, it'd be like a donkey being placed between two bales of hay, exactly centered, and everything was like, textbook, scientifically balanced. So there was absolutely, he said he would just sit down and starve to death. He'd have no reason to turn that way more than that way. So he'd sit down and starve to death. So it's in that situation, Dafka, where you see Bechira Chofshis. But Bechira Chofshis exists all the time by a Yid. I might even go as far as to say that it's always Bechira Chofshis. That's why it's so important, learning about the concept of Lishma, because I think really in truth, a Yid only does mitzvahs because of Lishma. If you would dig down deep enough, yeah, every mitzvah that a Jew does is the tachlis of Lishma. I think that's what the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, B'toich loy lishma boy lishma. It's from the toich, the inner of the loy lishma. You're going to come to lishma, understanding the real panemius reason why you're being over the Shem, which is why every Yid is being over the Shem. That's mamash lishma. You don't want anything. You don't want Gan Eden. You don't care about Gehenim. You don't want to feel close to God. You don't want to give him nachas. You don't want nothing. That's just who you are. You're just Jewish and you do mitzvahs. That's it. That's really the premise of all the mitzvahs that we're doing. So why have I gotten all this? Why have I gotten so hell-bent on trying to bring this message of Lishma to the world? It's just the outer layers. Because all the Yidden are Lishma, no matter how low Lishma they might sound, they're really Lishma. So just the benefit of getting this hashkafa of Lishma in is that it will just cause you to work much harder for Hashem. Because when you're the goal of everything, yeah, well, how hard are you prepared to work when it's all about you? But when you can get it out of your head that it's all about you and you realize that it's actually about Hashem, then you're actually going to be able to give him a lot more. So that's really where I'm coming from. That's really the goal of Bnei Aliyah, is not that people aren't Lishma. It doesn't matter how low Lishma a person sounds, a Yid sounds, for sure he's Lishma. But the outer levels, once you get the hashkafa clear that it's not about you and your mind, yeah, then you're ready to fly in your avodas Hashem. You're ready to give much more to Rabbonu Sholem. So it's always Lishma. Okay, so with that as an introduction, let's read Heilige words of the Alter Rebbe. Perek Yud Beis, so on page Yud Ches. Perek Yud Gimel, sorry, Perek Yud Gimel, not Yud Beis, Perek Yud Gimel. V'zeh Yivin Loshen Marzal B'Beinonim Zeh v'zeh Shoftan. And this is what we learn from Chazal when they said in the Beinoni, this and this is the Shofet, Perish Yetzer Tov v'Yetzer Hara. It's interesting how it's Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara with a hey. Why isn't it Yetzer HaTov and Yetzer Hara? Or why is it not Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Ra? It's nearly always Yetzer Tov v'Yetzer Hara. Any ideas?
Because the it is you.
Because what?
Because the it is you. You're saying ha. You don't need the ha, right? Because you're identifying it as something else. But in this case, it's you.
Okay. So I hear that. That's not really technically how it works, I don't think, like grammatically, but I appreciate that. I think this is just my thoughts. Anyone has any thoughts?
I want to see how Hashem fits into the picture with the hay.
So what do you mean?
Meaning, the whole point of the Yetzer Hara is to make this a productive world. Meaning, he says that the Yetzer Hara is Tov Moed. So if we have the Yetzer Hara that compels us to build and to have families and to create and to do, otherwise we wouldn't do anything, then or especially in the Ra, we have to find the Hey, we have to find Hashem.
Okay, very good.
We have to see Hashem, see Hashem in the darkness and bring the light.
Appreciate that. It's probably basically what I'm saying the other side, yeah?
I would think Yetzer Tov. Tov is Pashit. There's only one Tov. That's their Buddhism. It's lack of ego. But the Yetzer Hara, the inclination of the bad, it takes many different forms and many different shapes. It wants an endless, infinite amount of desires.
That's more what I was thinking. That's what I thought, is that Hara breaks it up. Yetzer Tov is all one. Yetzer Hara breaks it up into a definite object. So exactly that's what I thought. But it's really the same as what Michael's saying, because that means we can bring Hashem into the period, which is what he was. Just as a side point, Pardes, yeah? The Pardes, Pshat Remez Drush Soid. What happens if you take away the Soid, which is the Pneumius Torah? You're left with period, yeah? And this was a cute thing that I came up with. Has told me this, and I sent it back to him another thing, which I thought was cute. He liked it a lot. Got the hurrah. If you take away the Dalad is drush. The Drishus Hashem. If you take away the Drishus Hashem from the Torah, what'd you get? Pras. All there's left is the schar. That's all you want. That's what we're looking for. Rabbeinu Shalom. Let us find you, please. Let us serve you. That's the Drisha. So that was just my point. Okay, back to the text. It brings two. It says that Hashem stands on the right side of the Evyoin, the very poor person. Evyoin is the ultimate level of poor person. To save Mishoftei Nafshoy. To say from the shofte nafsho, the plural, the shofte nafsho. We don't say that this and this rule, because when there is any kind of dominion of the Yetzer Hara in the Ir Katana, which is the goof, yeah, afilu lefi shah kala, even a moment, nikra rasha ba'is shah. He's called a rasha ba'is at that time. Ela liyetzer hara eino rak al derech moshe k'mo shofet v'dayin ha'omed da'atoi b'mishpat. In the Beinoni, the Yetzer Hara is only like more like a lawyer. Yeah, it's difficult. You can't call it a judge. More like a lawyer who states his das. It's important, it's his das. But Mishpat, in the din, he says what he wants, he states his opinion. But even so, even so that he states his opinion, it's possible that the halacha is not going to be like this. The psak halacha is not going to be like this. Because there is another voice. There's another lawyer who states his case. And now there's a stalemate. Yeah, the prosecuting attorney said, do it. The defense attorney is like, no, in that order. And there's just like a stalemate. So now what? And you need to be machriya, how to say, to adjudicate, to decide between them, and the halacha will be like the divrei machriya, like the one who's adjudicating. This is that was the moshel. Here's the nimshel. This is how it goes. The Yetzer Hara states his opinion in the left side of the heart. And it goes up into the brain to think about it. And immediately the second lawyer goes against it. That's in the nefesh hakis in the moach, and that comes down and it goes into the right side of the heart. Now your heart is divided. Yeah, 50%, the left side, the 50% on the left side wants to do the Aveira. And the 50% on the right side says, no, let's not do the Aveira. Or the other way, the 50% on the left side says, I can't be bothered to do the mitzvah. And the 50% on the right side says, yes, do the mitzvah. Let's talk about that. It's a bit more positive. which is the place of the Yetzer Tov. That we could talk about that for a long time. Just to be, I'm not going to talk about it, but just to open up the idea is colloquially we could refer to the Yetzer Tov as the Nefesh Elokis and the Yetzer Hara as the Nefesh Bahamis. But if you want to get more like granular, more scientific, you would refer to the Midas of the Yetzer Hara, the Midas of the Nefesh Bahamis as the Yetzer Hara, and the Midas of the Nefesh Elokis as the Yetzer Tov. Okay, and a good book to describe it Vita is A New Earth and the Power of Now. He calls the Yetzer Hara the pain body, which is the most fantastic description of the Yetzer Hara I've ever heard in my life, which is basically a parasite addicted to pain and suffering. That's what the Yetzer Hara is. Yeah, that's the same thing that causes someone whatever that it's an addiction to suffering and pain. Yeah, and the intellect of the Yetzer of the Nefesh Bahamis, you could call the ego. Okay, so the Tolly explains that very clearly over there, very, very well, Baruch Hashem. Okay, the halacha kadir v'machriya hu Kodesh Baruch Hu, and who's the machriya? Is a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Ha'oizro liyetzer toiv kamamu azal ilmali Kodesh Baruch Hu oizroi en yocholoi. And the way that it works is that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is machriya, and it's as the pasuk says, if it wasn't for Hashem helping, ein yocholo, you would not be able to overcome the Yetzer Hara. And what's this help? The help is the light that Hashem shines into your nefesh elokis, so that it has some kind of advantage over the stupidity of the fool that's the Yetzer Hara. Like the Yisr of Or Min HaChoshech, like the advantage of light over darkness. And as we've said, when the light shines, the darkness just vanishes. Poof, like that. So that's really what happens. If we can just, this is really my answer that I can think of here, is if you can just hold out. Just don't do that thing that we always do. Taiva. If you can just have a masuvim bedin, and I'll tell you what happened to me last night. Yeah, in Yana Diyoma, I haven't eaten like sugar for like about 2 months, like candies and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I made a decision. Finished. Yeah, I didn't make a neder, but I made a decision. Yeah, and I've had this thing with my leg over the past couple of days. I've hardly been able to walk. I've been in tremendous pain for like 2 days, 3 days. And last night it was now I've come out the tunnel now. I'm coming. It's good. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Baruch Hashem, I'm on the hill down. But last night I was at the top of the hill, and it was just so much. I'm like davening Ma'ariv, and I'm like, I need to eat some chocolate. I want some, and now all of a sudden, all you guys come back into my head, and I'm talking about, look, you're in Ma'ariv, just daven. And I'm like, no, I'm identified with the chocolate. I don't want to daven. I'm chocolate right now. I want to eat chocolate. There is no shmuel here to not want to eat chocolate. So I'm not going to daven, and I'm okay with that. And I'm going to finish davening quickly. And there was enough time and enough intellect for me to have made a slight gap, a teeny gap between me and the chocolate, yeah? And that would have been 2 months down the drain. 2 months of not eating sugar, yeah? Down the drain if I ate that chocolate. And I made just enough gap. And I finished davening, and I go and I look in the pantry, and there's a big bar of milky chocolate. There isn't usually, it's a big bar of milky chocolate. I look at it, and I didn't have a decision. I just look at it, I walk into the lounge, I said to my wife, Sherry, I'm going to eat some chocolate. And she says, but you're meaty. Yes. I was fleishik. I've never been more happy to be fleishik in my life. And I went to bed. So that's Hashem also helping Stam. I was able to make just enough gap. But like again, I was gonna eat that chocolate. I'm sorry to bring up such a funny little example, yeah, but I made just enough. I was zeicha to make just enough gap. That's all you need. You just need. That's what it says. Hashem says you make a teeny little Pesach, and I'll tear it open like the entrance to the base of Mikdash. And it's not stum that he says the entrance to the base of Mikdash. He could have just said, a big door. But it's the entrance to the base of Mikdash. Because if you can make that teeny little gap, make that teeny little separation between you and the Taiva, which is you and the Avera, which is really you and your lower self, you can make that teeny, weeny little gap, then Hashem will open the doors of the base of Mikdash and he will push you inside, mamish, into the Kodesh Kedoshim. And you can sit.
Where does it say that? Where does it say about the opening to the base of Mikdash?
It's a Gemara. It's a Gemara. Type it into a chatbot, you'll find it. Baruch Hashem for 2024. Soon to be 2025. Quite amazing. So the older Rebbe just basically spoke out what I explained just before, which I would never have understood if it wasn't for Rav Manis and Rav Yoel explaining the Inyan. That's the Inyan, but the whole Inyan's there. So if you want to chazah the idea of the concept of Bechir Chofshis, it's the first 2/3 of Perek Yud Gimel, first 2/3 of the page, the first page of Perek Yud Gimel. Any questions? No? Okay, let's go on. However, since that the Ra, which means identification with the lower self, that's in the left side of the left ventricle of the heart, in the Beinoini, who betakvoy katodasoi, is in its original strength, lehisavois taiva lakol tanuga ilam hazeh, to have taivas for all of the things of this world, v'lo nisbata b'miyut, and it hasn't been nullified in its smallness, legabe hatoiv, in its minority, next to the toiv, v'lo nidcha mimakoy moed klal, it hasn't been pushed away bichlal. It just does not have the reshus to spread out into the limbs of the goof, to actually make the yid do the avera or not do the mitzvah. Because Hashem stands to the right of the evyoin. Why is it the evyoin? Because this is really the avoider of being in this world, is to realize that you're an evyoin. What does an evyoin mean? It means you don't own anything. If you can get to that place of being really real with the fact that you don't own anything, you're doing really, really well. That's very, very healthy. And then the next stage after that, which is a very, very high stage, is when you actually give up ownership over your sense of self, meaning that sense of self isn't even yours. That's called that's then now you're really cooking with gas. Now you're serving the bonus shalom. Once you realize that your sense of self, that was what Michael was basically hinting to, that drive to build and to acquire and to dominate and to fix and v'chule, yeah. Once you can actually get over that, yeah, once you realize that even that doesn't belong to you, now you're a tzaddik. Now you're a tzaddik.
Rashi in Chumash says that an Evyon is the highest level of poverty.
Yeah.
More than an ani. Says the lashon of Evyon is actually from lashon taiva. Rashi says an Evyon is if you have an usher. The definition of an usher is sameach bechelko. So the definition of Evyon, Rashi says, is someone who's mis'avel kol davar. He desires everything.
Wow, that's a whole essay to write there, Gabriel. That's beautiful. Shkoyach. That's worth getting up for this morning. Well, yeah, so Hashem helps on the side of the Evyoin. And he burns into him the kedusha of the nefesh hakis. And it's so interesting, because you would think that when Hashem gives you like nice things, you want to say thank you to Hashem. But really, the real thanks to Hashem is when you're oimed the nisayon. So you could think that when you don't do that aveira, or when you did the mitzvah against all odds, you could turn around to Hashem, you can look at him, that one's for you. I got you. Yeah? It's exactly backwards. It's exactly backwards. That's the most gratitude you should feel to the Ribbono Shel Olam. Whenever you accomplish anything in Ruchnius, anything in Kedusha, yeah, that's when you really need to get on your knees and thank the Ribbono Shel Olam. That's the ultimate, not that you shouldn't be thanking him for everything, but that's the ultimate thank you. Thank you, Ribbono Shel Olam, that I stuck with it for a year and was Makayim the Masechta. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Or thank you, Ribbono Shel Olam, that I was able to overcome that taiva that I can't believe that I didn't do that. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's mamash. That's really the ultimate thanks that we have for the Ribbono Shel Olam. That's where he's burning into this awe, into the nefesh. Kurasha. Now he's going to answer up a question from the beginning of the Sefer. That's why the Benoni is called Kurasha. As he said at the very beginning of the Sefer, even if the whole world calls you a tzaddik, you should be in your eyes Kurasha. Not a Rasha, v'lo Rasha mamash, el shiachzik atzmo leBeinoni. Don't think of yourself as a Rasha mamash, but you're Kurasha, like a Benoni. You should hold of yourself as a Benoni. V'lo lahamin la'olam, sho'im she'arasha bo nizbato legabe atov. And don't ever fall off guard. Is that fall off guard? Is that what we're saying? Don't ever be caught off guard. Don't be fooled into thinking that the Ra, your sense of selfishness, has actually gone away. Chaz v'shalom, never ever think that. That's the level of a tzaddik. You should be in your mind as if that the Ra, your sense of selfishness, your sense of independence, your sense of period from reality, that you're a law unto yourself, that is betakvo gvrasoi. It's mamash still stark there. Yeah, b'chali smuli in the left side katodasoi. As it has always been. In fact, he's going to say, and it hasn't gone, it hasn't dissipated in any way. It's actually gotten stronger. Your sense of self as you see it can be like older people can become really selfish. Like if they're not careful, because if you just if a person gives into themselves over and over again, then obviously that part of us is getting more and more chizuk, and it's getting stronger and stronger. This has a yoseh behemshech hazman, and it gets stronger behemshech hazman as time goes on. Shnishtamesh boy harbe b'achila, as you're involved in a lot with eating, v'shtir, v'shayin olam hazeh, and in all the different things of this world. So listen, it comes out like this. This is Modik. See, the Tanya, the question is, are you a tzaddik or are you a Rasha or are you a Benoni? Yeah? So the answer is, I'm a Benoni. The answer is always a Benoni. Why? Because if I am a tzaddik, well, I'm always going to be choishish for the fact that the Ra hasn't dissolved Lagamre and I have to be on guard. So I'm not going to think I'm going to say, even if I'm really mamash online, I'm not doing Averas, I'm doing all the mitzvahs, I'm really working hard, I'm not giving it to my tithers, I'm there. Baruch Hashem. Chasdei Hashem. Yeah? Don't think that you really are there. What we're going to say later is that probably what's going on is that you're involved so deeply on a behavioral level in good that the selfishness inside you never gets to pipe, it never pipes up. But if for a minute you drop your guard, yeah, there's no telling what could be. No telling what could be. So you'd never call yourself a tzaddik. But that's not really relevant to us because we're probably not tzaddikim according to the Tanya. But what is absolutely relevant to us is that you're not a Rasha. You should be matzik yourself as a Benoni. See, this is the Pasha Pshat in the Tanya is, don't think that you're a tzaddik, even if you're acting like a big tzaddik, call yourself a Beinoini, because you have to be on guard. But what we're saying now is no, even when you're a Rasha, meaning you're doing stuff not Beseda, you're doing stuff not Beseda, or saying stuff or thinking stuff not Beseda, you call yourself a Beinoini. You're just a Beinoini, you're a Beinoini. Right, meaning that I don't do anything that is not Beseda. And you can plug it into your human relationship with your wife. And you can say, you must say this, and you must believe this with your heart 100%. You will never, ever, ever, ever be unfaithful to your wife. Ever. That has to be in your mind. There's nothing that could ever. I am in regards to my relationship with my wife, I'm a Beinoini, which means I could feel things and I could but absolutely out of the question. That's how we need to see our relationship with the Ribbono Shel Olam. I can never be unfaithful to the Ribbono Shel Olam. And it has to be with that same kind of like absolute, like how it is with our wives, and that's why we have to make all these gedarim in relationship to our physical relationship with our wives. That's why yichud is a tremendous schus to have hilchas yichud that we should learn about and we should always be miskayim. Yeah, and the Mishnah, Al Tar B'Sichim Isha, like we learned on Thursday, don't talk too much with women, Bichlal, and just minimize all interaction with other women. And your wife, just like, and this is what Manis said, we said on Thursday, is that just like why does the Torah go so head over heels on the concept of Hashem Echad? Ein od milvado, there's only the Ribbono Shel Olam, is because it's not that he's the best, he's the most fantastic, he's the most powerful, he's the kindest, he's the most loving, he's the all that. No, he's the only. There is nothing else to serve. Kol Zman, he's just the best or the kindest or the strongest or the most infinite or the most knowing or the most kind. Yeah, well, okay, but what about if something more kind came along or someone more powerful? The point is that there's only him. That's what it means, Hashem Echad. And that's the inyan of Adam and Chava. That's the inyan of our relationships with our wives. There should be absolutely zero kesher with any other woman except for your children and your mother and your sisters. Zero kesher. It should be not rude, but to the point where there is as absolutely as much barrier as you can create between you and her without really upsetting someone. And if their mum is crazy and they're going to get upset by just being curt and not making conversation, well, then that's not your problem. But we have to, that's the inyan of setting yourself up for success. That's really the inyan of the revelation of your relationship with your wife, because you're not gonna do anything wrong, but the fact that you want to distance yourself from it so much, that is a revelation of your relationship with your wife, and that will feed back into the system, and your relationship with your wife will go up and up and up and up and up, and that's Givaldic, Bezrat Hashem. And that's how a Beinoini is with the Ribbono Shel Olam. And that's maybe why the Mishnah says, Mesaveh B'din, Sayag the Torah, put a guard around the Torah. That's what the Beinoini does. See, the Beinoini is so committed to the Ribbono Shel Olam that he wants to make sure that he knows that he's never going to fail. He knows that he's never going to do an Aveira, and that he will always do the mitzvah. But what can he do? So what's the avoida? Is you distance yourself from Aveira and you miskarev yourself to mitzvah. That's the expression of the relationship on a day in, day out level. Because you're not going to be doing the Aveira and you're always going to be doing the mitzvah, Lamaisa. So how do we express this fact that Ribbono Shel Olam, I am 100% dedicated that's going to be expressing itself through the fact that I'm going to make a guard between me and all Avera. And I'm going to do everything in my power to do as many mitzvahs as I possibly can, to make mitzvahs as easy as they can. There's no chap to make mitzvahs difficult yourself. So that's not a kunz to make mitzvahs as difficult, difficult for yourself. Make them as easy as possible. One of the things that I do once a month or so, I change up like 200 shekels into single shekels. So I've got, for Shachnis, I can just give a shekel to everyone who asks. I can give that's like an idea of like setting yourself up for success, making the mitzvahs as easy as possible. Don't think that's like cheating because the mitzvahs are easier. That's really, that's your relationship expressing itself. It's like when your wife's birthday is coming up, yeah? You should have a month warning before her birthday. Somehow you should remind yourself a month before her birthday. Not like 3 days before her birthday, and then you're running around like a nut trying to work out something. Give yourself time. That's really the revelation of how much you love her. You hear that? The fact that you gave yourself a 1 month warning, yeah? Like from my wife's birthday is at the end of Kislev. So the minute Rosh Chodesh Kislev comes in, the truth is I actually worked it out already. I already ordered her birthday present like last week, yeah? But usually when Rosh Chodesh Kislev comes in, my shoulders start to tense up and I start to sweat until I've actually like worked out what I'm going to do for her, yeah? But also don't forget now with Chatbot GPT, you have an amazing resource to do fantastic things with your wife. Don't let that slip through your fingers. But anyway, that's a revelation of the relationship. That's Pasha, a revelation of the relationship. The fact that you've taken on a month before to start entertaining the idea, what am I going to do for her? As opposed to 3 days before. Yeah, and then you buy her a present. So that solidifies the relationship. And now before you know it, and that's the inyan of a relationship. And that's why we never try and define a relationship, because by definition, a relationship is dynamic, which means that the relationship is always moving. It's either going up or the opposite. A relationship does not stay still, bichlal. So these inyanim, this is what takes us up, whether it's with your wife, whether it's with your Avodah Hashem, same thing. Okay, B'ezrat Hashem, should be zeicha to serve Hashem faithfully and to be very, very good husbands. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, Zaygazen Chavre.
Shmuel, I saw your brother-in-law in London.
Oh, wait a minute.